And speaking of Narendra Modi, a 310-page biography on the Gujarat Chief Minister claims to reveal never-before-published and authenticated documents that deal with the 2002 Gujarat riots. The British author and TV producer Andy Marino timed their release just weeks before the country goes to vote, putting the spotlight back on the events of 2002.
Even as Narendra Modi has pitched himself into campaigning for the 2014 elections, which he and his party say will be fought on the issues of corruption and development, a just released biography of the leader may put the spotlight back on the 2002 riots. The book by British author and TV producer Andy Marino deals with the riots and its aftermath in some detail. It quotes Modi as saying that he was sad about the 2002 riots but never felt guilty, and adds that no court has ever come close to establishing it. Marino says that he was given full access by Modi and he interviewed him over several weeks. Modi told Marino that he had submitted his resignation during the party's Goa meeting in April 2002, but it was rejected. The book quotes Narendra Modi as saying that he has faced 12 years of Modi bashing but has never questioned the media's role. That the book has made it to the bookshelves just before the 2014 elections is obviously due to heightened interest in the BJP's prime ministerial candidate. However, it may also put the spotlight back on 2002 riots, something that can be a double-edged sword for Narendra Modi. Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
Headlines Today spoke to Andy Marino, the author of this new biography of Narendra Modi. We started by asking him why he chose Narendra Modi as the subject of his book and how he went about approaching the Gujarat Chief Minister to give him access.
I've done some things in India before, and I'm a biographer. And Indian politics, I was not an expert, but I'm interested. And India's a place where you still have politics. You have vast inequalities. You have very forceful political movements. In Europe, it's all tinkering at the edges. We're trying to regulate the size of carrots. That's what we're reduced to. Whereas in India, everything's still very vital. And that interested me, and I've always been interested in India. And I'm a biographer. I look for subjects. And with the upcoming elections and the possibility of big change in India, it seems that was a good way to go. And, Modi's an interesting figure. And everybody seemed to, the media at least seems rather to despise him. And that's intriguing. You want to know if that's true, if what everybody says about him is true. So you do what you do. And I think because I'm a foreigner, he was maybe more inclined to speak to me, perhaps because I wouldn't be bringing the usual baggage with me. I don't know. I think it's a combination of these things. I think, obviously, this was before he was declared the prime ministerial candidate for the BJP, but that was in the air. Everybody thought it would happen. Advani was obviously militating against it, so was Swaraj, and there were things going on. But I would have been surprised if he wasn't declared. So there was maybe a slight desire to raise his profile, although really not much. I mean, it's just a little biography by a foreigner, and he's already has a very, very high profile in India. He was beginning to do those rallies that were attracting first 1 lakh and then soon 5, even 7 lakhs of people. So I don't think that really entered into his calculations to talk to me much. I think more is that, because I was a foreigner, and it might be a chance to speak to somebody without the interviewer having preconceptions about him, because I really didn't. I'd heard things, but I wanted to hear from him and get to know him and to sort of what we say, suss him out and see what he was like as a person. That's what I'm interested in. You try to get the personality and then fit it in with the history and see what makes sense and paint a decent portrait of somebody. And I think once we started off very formally, but soon we were laughing and chatting, and it was and he's a man who does like to talk. I mean, he's a very political person. His job is his life. He doesn't have much outside the job, from what I can tell. But it's also his passion. And India is his passion. And development, prosperity, and all that kind of thing is his passion. Once you get him going on that, he'll talk. It's great. He loves it.
We also spoke to Andy Marino about what is probably the most controversial aspect of Narendra Modi, and certainly for his opponents, which is the 2002 riots. Now, there are comments that Marino attributes to Modi in that biography. We asked him what Modi's reaction was when he broached the subject with him in person.
He was keen to open up because obviously this lies upon him. He is very sad. He was in charge when it happened, and he regrets it immensely, I'm sure. But he's also quite clear that, contrary to what has been said for the last 10 years, he didn't encourage it. He wasn't trying to foment bloodshed in the streets. It came as a complete shock to him, and he did everything he possibly could to stop it as soon as he could. So, in a sense, when he says, "I'm sad but not guilty," what he means is there's no mens rea there. There's no criminal intent that he wanted bad things to happen. As soon as they began, he moved heaven and earth to try and stop it immediately. He tried to call in troops. Unfortunately, they were deployed at the border because of the confrontation with Pakistan following the attack on the Indian Parliament. He appealed to neighbouring states. They refused to send troops or policemen. He appealed to Delhi, and as soon as possible, forces were being airlifted in. There were boots on the ground, and he managed to really get a hold of it quite quickly. When you look at what actually happened, it's very different than the myths that have arisen about it. So his sense of sadness is that it happened, and he knows that as the man in charge, he is the responsible person. And that sadness, the fact that he is not guilty, means that he did not intend it to happen. He did everything he could to mitigate it. Not guilty means that every inquiry that's been held has found him innocent of any malfeasance or bad intent. So I think it's fair to say there's a clear difference between guilt and non-guilt. And he is not guilty, but he is very, very sad about it. I think it doesn't seem to be a mystery about those definitions or those feelings. You feel guilty if you've done something bad. That's what guilt, morally means. Legally, it means something similar but a bit different. But morally, he doesn't feel guilty. He never meant harm to anybody. He tried to stop it. But it's terribly, terribly sad, even today, to him.